professionals will be here today, so welcome on board. Today we are going to talk about some of the things that are happening in our day-to-day lives as a result of COVID-19. Not forgetting we are here today courtesy of the Accelerate. Accelerate is working towards 3 zeros, that is 0 GBV, 0 maternal health, and 0 unmet FP needs. So we are here today to talk and have a conversation around all the things that are happening in our today's world as matters of GBV and as a result of the COVID-19. So welcome on board. And with me, I have my two good friends and colleagues. So yeah, they can kindly introduce themselves, get to know who is in the room, and look into it. We are going to have a lovely conversation. So thank you so much. Yes, we can begin on my right. Kindly just introduce yourself and yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I am Makena Mujungi. I am a therapist by profession. I am a friend of GBRC.
Hi, I'm Mary Kanja, a counseling psychologist by profession working for Gender Violence Recovery Center. Looking forward to an interactive conversation.
Yes, and my name is Triza Wangeshi. I work at the Gender Violence Recovery Center as a programs officer. We are happy to be here. Kindly comment, share. Do not forget to like and ask any questions as we go by. Yes, and we'll be able to answer. So today we are here to speak about matters of sexuality. So just like us, McKenna, maybe just for us to be able to know, COVID-19 has brought about many changes on gender roles and how people are, doing their day-to-day activities. We have seen matters of arising, maybe single moms and teenage pregnancies. So maybe just what is your take, and how has this COVID-19, reflecting on our sexuality and how, young women and girls are coming about in our society? Thank you.
So if we're looking at COVID-19, the pandemic, we may take ourselves back to last year, where we had a long period where a lot of people were home. Everything was closed down, schools were closed down, most people were asked to work from home. And what happened afterwards is we've seen on the news that there are so many cases of rising teenage pregnancies. We've given time to young people to do whatever the hell they want. And when I say that, I mean that we sent them home, but we didn't give them guidelines on what to do. We didn't tell them that these are the rules. You need to be here and not here. We told them wear masks, wash your hands, and stay away from people. But they got bored. So most likely, a lot of them engaged in different activities. Many made friends. There's a lot of people who got into very different relationships. There's COVID relationships. I know you've heard of that, the pandemic relationships. All this resulted into a very high sexual, I don't know how to call it, I'll say the rise in engaging in sexual activities was higher during the period where people were home as opposed to when people had things to do. Because when people are at work during the day, you don't expect people to be copulating at work. But when they're home and they have nothing else to do, they're working from home. We've seen the jokes, we've seen the memes where people are on video, but the video is turned off and what's going on in the background is not what would normally happen in a work setting. And these are people who are working. So what about the kids? What about the people who are home just free roaming around? So I think that COVID paved way to a lot of engagement in sexual activity that was not guided by any rules. And previously, as parents, as the people in society who are supposed to give guidelines to children, we don't talk about it. It's a taboo in society. So these kids got an avenue to explore, and they did. They explored a lot. So that's what I think.
Mary, maybe you have something to say. I know you're working at the Adams unit at GVRC. Maybe you've had, clients who are coming and maybe, having to talk about their experiences. We have seen the data that we have of teenage pregnancies and young girls, who are just coming to seek for counseling services. So maybe you can just tell our viewers, maybe how has the situation been, and maybe what can you even tell people out there to, to look out for, so that, our young girls can be very careful, and, be good members of the society and also to be able to even talk to their other peers. So kindly, maybe what can you be able to say about the situation?
Okay, going as per the statistics, even we've seen them, even the national statistics, just in 2020 we had 320,000 teenage girls who got pregnant. From the experience and the girls that I've interacted with and the nature of the cases, as McKenna has said, children were out of school. We were told to stay home. And the period that we expected to stay home was prolonged. And at some point, even the kids, even ourselves, got bored. And we really had nothing to do. Because we are at home, we are not engaged. As a result, we definitely had to get something else to engage ourselves in. And that something else, unfortunately, it was sex. As a result, we've gotten so many teenage mothers, teenage girls have become pregnant, and sexual abuse has been on the rise, as well as physical violence, intimate partner violence. And also on the positive side, so many COVID babies have been born, not from the teenage mothers, but adults. So what I can tell people out there is that people need to understand, going as per our conversation today about sexuality, people need to understand that as much as I don't have something else to do, there's more than sexual engagement that I can do. There is something beyond that I can do. Again, coming back to the teenage pregnancy, it's very unfortunate that most of these teenage girls, the perpetrators or the fathers to these kids, are people who are supposed to be protecting these children. They are close family members. Unfortunate enough, sometimes stepfathers, biological fathers, uncles, stepbrothers. I think it's something that we need to have a very serious discussion about, because the only place a child feels safe is inside the house. And it's unfortunate that the same house is where the child is most unsafe. Because I've always asked myself, if a girl is being defiled by the father, where can this girl go to? Because home is the last place you can hide yourself. But now the home is unsafe itself. Again, from the fact that these teenage girls have been out of school, they're in a very sensitive developmental stage. So many things are happening, so many changes are happening in their bodies, including hormonal changes. They're in a state of, I can say they're in a state of confusion. They don't know whether they are adults or they are children. Their bodies, they feel like adults, but looking at the age, they are still children. And as a result, the caregivers or the people who are expected to protect them are taking advantage of that. And once I approach a teenage girl and what can I say? Approach a teenage girl and talk to her about sex, she will definitely respond in a positive way, not because she really wants to have sex, but it's what her body is telling her. And unfortunate enough, the adults are taking advantage of that and resulting to all this, sorry to say, all this whole mess that we are having about teenage pregnancy and teenage mothers. So I feel it's a discussion that we need to have very seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a mess. I don't know where you're very apologetic about that, because it's what we are seeing and what is happening. So, as much as we want to make as young girls healthy decisions, to be able, we are working towards, telling people out there that there are family planning methods, because it's something that is really happening. We cannot hide the fact that even young girls right now are aware that we have these methods, we have condoms, we have the pills, we have the injections. So it's a matter of time that we embrace the new trends that we have, and also to embrace the information. Let us not be ignorant. So there's an article I was reading, and it's very interesting. So it was talking about, how people are also sorting to be able to kind of abstain from sex, but now nowadays they call it secondary virginity. So I don't know if you have heard about that, but yeah, it's an article I was reading. Maybe even one of us has been able to practice that. It's time about we know what is happening out there. So maybe McKenna, what comes to mind when you hear maybe about secondary virginity? Or have you had somebody, a friend? We are young, so I know these things are happening out there.
When you're talking about secondary virginity, you mean the circumstance in which someone has already engaged in sexual activity before, but they reach a place and time where they say, let me not do this anymore. Let me wait for a particular time. Could be marriage, could be a place where they're in a mental state to handle it, because I know that we think sex is easy, but it comes with a lot of baggage, comes with a lot of mental baggage, with a lot of emotional attachment. So people have different reasons. I have had of secondary sexuality.
I thought so.
I know a lot of people who are practicing it. And most times could be, there's also a revolution that happened with the pandemic. A lot of people went back to God.
Yes, yes.
A lot of people decided that, I am renewing my religion or my spirituality. We've seen a wave of it. If you're watching TikTok, there are so many TikTok pastors. There are so many young, especially young people, who are finding God on their own terms, and that also came about. There's a revival of what virginity means to people. You may never recover your virginity once you lose it, but you can redefine what sexuality means to you, your boundaries to sex, your thoughts and your principles towards it. It doesn't necessarily have to be because, we were told. You remember when we were younger, I think everyone has gone through this, we're usually told sex is a sin. Sex before marriage is a sin. No one gives you an explanation. No one tells you anything other than usicheze na vijana for girls. And guys, I don't know about guys, but I know most of the guys I've talked to say that they're given leeway. In fact, they're encouraged by the older guys, to explore. But you understand, when girls are told, stay away from boys, it doesn't do anything but arouse curiosity.
True.
It pushes buttons. You're asking yourself, okay, why have I been told to stay away from boys? As Mary said, your body is telling you something different. You're growing boobs. You're having a very attractive body. People are seeing it, especially the guys. They're seeing it, and they're approaching you. So you're wondering, why was I told to stay away from boys? And then the only other reason you're given is you get pregnant. Yeah. But remember, we are seeing so many people getting pregnant at a young age, and life goes on. So that's no longer an issue for most people. We may think that it is. We may think that people are affected, but for most people nowadays, getting pregnant doesn't really affect your life. You stay 9 months, have the baby, leave it with your parents, or, forge forward.
Go back to school, because even we have seen young girls who are, getting pregnant in school, and even the government has been, kind enough to be able to have some kind of, what can I call it? Is it the constitution is allowing even the pregnant mothers to go back to school, and you can even be able to go back and breastfeed the baby and go back to school maybe in the afternoon. So I think it's just for us to be able to educate ourselves, right? Yeah. And just to tell these young girls, when you tell them do not have sex, what about sex? Or what will happen to you if you have sex? Mary, what do you think?
Okay. I'm trying to look at secondary virginity. There are a number of ways that you can look at it. And one is the one that McKenna has shared. I have initially engaged in sex, but it reached a point I think I don't want to have sex anymore until marriage. I'll be practicing secondary virginity. Looking at it in aspect of someone who has gone through rape or defilement. Their virginity was taken away without their consent. They can also practice secondary virginity. Since once the virginity is lost, it's not something that you can recover. It's gone and it's gone. You've mentioned something about contraceptives and teenagers. And it's always an interesting discussion for me because we want to tell our teenagers, don't do sex. That is what we were told, she said. Don't engage in sex. Actually, it was a taboo to mention the word sex for me. We were told when I began my periods, I remember the statement I was told. Umekuwa mwanamke sasa, usicheze na wanaume na vijana. Just that. So for me, I grew up knowing that sifai kucheza na wao. But this kucheza, it was not explained to me what exactly it is. But I thank God si kucheza na wao. It's on a note. So I think it's come a time we need to address the issue as it is. We can no longer hide ourselves. We can no longer act as if it's not happening. Because as much as we tell these teenagers, I'm not advocating for sex or young, but as much as we tell them, don't engage in sex, we need to explain or make them understand more why exactly shouldn't I engage in sex? What if I've already engaged in sex? Does it mean that my life is doomed? You get? What if I'm already sexually active? Does it mean that it's the end of me? Or does it mean that my life has now come to an end? So we need to do sex education and call things as they are. Yeah, I think I don't want to expand more. Yeah.
Yes. You've mentioned something about you're lucky, you're glad how kucheza now, and the statement you've made is you were told usicheze na wanaume. The thing about that is it also divides. We see a rift. There's an age where young kids reach class 6, class 7, and you see enmity between boys and girls. There's always some rivalry that is unexplained, but mostly it stems from that statement, yeah? Usicheze na wanaume. So the girls are trying to find friends they identify with from the female side. However, we remember that they are changing. They are also attracted to these guys. We can't say that they are not. They are. And it forms a negative perception of what relationships should be like. We're talking about GBV, right? These guys will play with each other, and they'll rough each other up, and it's, a form of brotherly love. This person has not had any form of education on what a relationship entails, how they should treat their lady. And it's so sad that most homes, we don't like saying it, but most homes have a form of GBV. Someone shouts, the other one throws a cup. The models we have at home are not always healthy because some of the marriages from the past are not formed on a basis of love. Our older generation, I am so sorry to mention this, but our older generation, when you look at most parents who we come from, they got married early. And if you look at their firstborn and the age, it's most likely because someone didn't have sexual education. They went out of their parents' house, had sex, got pregnant, and they were told, huyo ni bwana yako. Enda. Now you decided this is the path you're going to take, and therefore, that's the home you're going to. It wasn't a relationship. It was probably just a fling. It was probably just exploration. And now they find themselves in a setting where they're married. No preparation at all for what even marriage entails. Most likely the kids do not get a picture of what marriage should be like or what a healthy relationship should be like. And the same parent who got this kid young and was forced into this marriage tells the daughter, usicheze na vijana. Does not give an explanation as to why usicheze na vijana, because they weren't given one. They have no model for themselves. So what happens is this kid and the boy next door, who probably comes from the same background, meet, and the cycle continues. So we really need to also model healthy relationships, be able to create platforms where people talk about what relationships should be like, because we are seeing a lot of deviance in relationships nowadays. There's so many other topics. There's LGBTQ, which for now, we can't say we know why. People will say, I was born this way, but as a therapist, I know there's always a root cause to everything.
And something came to mind when you're talking about vile tunaambia usicheze na vijana, na wasichana wamesikiza kweli hawachezi na vijana. And I think we're also seeing very many cases of, homosexual relationships, let me just call them that. Unasikia kwanza in secondary schools kuna so many cases ya unasikia kuna lesbianism na kuna gayism. I'm just thinking, the moment unaambia msichana asicheze na huyo kijana, unataka relate na nani? Si ni kweli? Ata end up kurelate na mwenye ako karibu na yeye, unapata ako girl school. So the only person anaweza relate na yeye ni msichana ambaye ako karibu na yeye na they can be able to share the same experiences, hormonal nini whatever, kuna hormones ziko all over the place, true? So even as much as we parents are talking about, oh, asijui my daughter amekuwa lesbian na nini, do you think, Mary, that parents are playing a big role in maybe how their children are turning up, especially in matters of their sexual orientation?
Yes, actually 100%. I'm not blaming the parents, but as McKenna has said, how they were brought up, the cycle keeps continuing because this parent, today I'm a parent, I was told usicheze na vijana, but it was not taken beyond that. So what will happen when my daughter is a teenager? I will also tell her the same. And as a result, usicheze na vijana, what comes into a child's mind is being outside in the field playing. It does not cross their mind that actually they meant sex. You get? So at school, sitacheza na vijana in the field. If you remember, like the way in primary schools you are sitting in desk and you're supposed to sit a girl and a boy, you draw a line katikati ya desk, usipite hapa, you actually even put a bag, like don't dare pass here. Because I was told usicheze na vijana, usikaribie vijana, but I was not told exactly ni kukaribia kwa aina gani. So parents unknowingly are contributing to this. That's why I began by saying we can't blame them because the knowledge is not there. And I think such a forum like this, it's an awesome forum because we will be educating them. And you find even the parents themselves are not getting to understand, oh, wow, kumbe that is what my mom meant when she said usicheze na vijana. So I feel, as I said earlier, it's about time. The conversation became real. We became candid. Like we just can't afford to continue, let me say, sugarcoating or hiding. You see, like the way an ostrich does, if an ostrich senses danger, what does it do? It hides its head under the sand, forgetting the entire body it's outside. So if it's an enemy who was coming, it will still get attacked. I feel like that's what we are doing to the situation. So I think we need to have a very candid conversation.
Thank you, Simo from Nakuru. You're watching us. We have Davis Mugo, Geoffrey, George, Becky Getao. Thank you, our viewers. Continue liking us, continue watching, share even to your friends out there. Yeah, thank you so much. So, yes, McKenna, maybe we can just pick up. What is your feeling about same-sex, relationships? It's happening even in the internet. We are seeing even, couples, getting married. It's out in the open. People are no longer hiding. So what's your take?
First, I have to tell you that I think if you ask my honest opinion, you may be disappointed. Let me give you a professional one. I have a friend who says that if you sweep things under the rug for so long, they'll form a bump, and most likely you'll trip on that bump. We've done this as a society. We have known for a very long time that same-sex relationships are happening in the community. But we've never created spaces to talk about them. We have always condemned. No one ever takes the time to find out, why are you the way that you are? Most of us are very religious. We are all brought up in religious backgrounds. So most of us will go to the Bible and say it's a sin. Again, to the issue on sex, we'll say sex before marriage is a sin. And also to these same-sex relationships, we will say you're committing a sin. You either change or you go to hell and burn. You know. So what happens after that is most people will be secretive about their relationships. You will never know until the government decides that, oh, it is okay for same-sex people to get married. And then we have so many people streaming forward to go for the marriage certificate, and you're wondering, where did they come from? You get. But if you ask me, I think there's sometimes always a root cause. There's an analogy that's given of a father who's a drunkard, who has 2 sons. One of the sons will say, I will never drink because my father is a drunkard. The other one will say, I drink because my father drank. We may not want to accept it, but even the previous generation had same-sex relationships. They still do. Because where else is it learned? All behavior is learned somewhere. What are we modeling to our younger people? If you don't want your child, again, I will go back to GBV. If you hit your lady, your woman, your wife constantly, or you treat her with disrespect, your son may decide, I don't want a relationship with a lady because a part of me feels like I may become my father's son. Therefore, let me be with a man who can handle it. Yeah. There's also the issue on schools. We tell young girls, have girlfriends. A funny story, when I was younger, I didn't have very many girlfriends. Yeah. I had, most of my friends are male, like even to date. Even to date. So many ladies, even me. Most of my friends are male. Yes. When I was in Form 2, my dad went and looked for the only girl he knew was my friend. I knew this girl when I was in primary school. I was in class 3. She was brought for a sleepover for a weekend. I had not seen her since I was in class 6.
So that you can bond.
So that I can have a female friend. But you see what that does is it tells me that having relationships with my male friends is wrong. And what does that do to me? Push me to the girls. What if I was having, what do we call it? We call it, I was in a phase of exploration and I wanted to find out what is it like to be a lesbian?
Yes.
What would have happened to me at that point? When my parents are pushing me towards the girls, they don't want me to be with the guys. You understand? So part of modeling is also understanding that you are the one who will determine what type of relationship, even friendship, your children will have. The encouragement you give, the discouragement you give will determine what type of relationship they will want to have. Also, the thing that is the fruit from the forbidden tree is sweetest. So the more we discourage this, the more we don't want to have open conversations about it, the more we hide behind religion about this conversation without actually having the hard conversations, the more we will see it. That's what I think.
People tend to do whatever they are told not to do. Because, we like exploring, we are curious. Human beings are just curious in nature. But I think it's timely that you have this conversation. Do not shy away. Even just to share with your friends what is happening in your life. This is to the young people out there, Just keep talking and get to know what is happening, express yourself. Because I think that is the only way we can be able, to deal with the matters that are, every day we have something new that is happening. I think some few years ago, the issues of, sponsorship and all that, wasichana kuwa na sponsor, was the main thing. But today we are talking about different things. But it also just, affects how we grow up and what kind of parents we are going to be, because we want to bring up also children who are able to tell from right and wrong. We don't want just to bring children and then the world just to be a chaos, because I think that is what it's turning to. Even on our social media, even on our televisions, we're seeing what is happening. There is a lot of kidnappings, a lot of child abuse and all that. So I think this conversation is very timely. Always an interesting thing. Our young girls, I think imefika mahali ni kama hatuna role models ama watu ambao wana relate na whatever is happening to our lives. Because I think when it reaches to a point that unaenda maybe to seek for advice from an older person or even wanting to have a relationship with an older man, it might be love, yes, I'm not judging the people who are out there, it might be love, but we also have other reasons like socioeconomic reasons, which comes about as matters of empowerment. You know, how well are we talking to our young girls to be better women in our society? So we are not ambushing anybody, just, you know, just we want to understand, you know, what is happening out there. How is the social economic status of, you know, our women who are out there, you know. Mbona tuko na hizi maneno ya sponsors? Yeah? Makena, ni kwa nini tuko nayo? Yeah?
So, well, I think that this conversation has come in the wake of a case that was pushed by that. And I may not be able to tell you the reasons why all the girls go into those relationships as they go into it. But I can tell you that hypergamy will, in essence, happen in settings when, how do I say this without sounding like I'm judging? Okay, so I'm a young girl. I'm in campus because most of those things don't start in primary school. You wouldn't see a primary school girl or a high school girl because they're being provided for, they're sheltered. The environments that they're in are sheltered in the sense that they wouldn't be meeting older men who are offering them the world and the moon. I'm in campus, I just joined campus. My parents will get me to a certain point. But then peer pressure is a nice thing because kuna kwenda out, kuna venye unavanga huko.
Kuna vile unataka kukaa vizuri, nails all done,
nails,
you know.
And we know nails are not cheap. And they need to be changed every 2 weeks. And hairstyles, and my mother will not agree. My mother will think I'm crazy when I'm asking her for 2,000 every 2 weeks to change my nails. In fact, I'm in school. And sometimes they are still looking at me to help them even when I am in school. Sometimes your help si yangu. Nachukua help ndio nitume home, at least school fees ya my younger brother ilipwe. You get? And here comes this Range Rover of a person. I meet him on the streets and he's like, hi, can I buy you lunch? And at lunch he says, what do you need? Where do you live? How much is your rent? How much is your upkeep for the week? I'll double it and send it to you. You don't need to do anything. You just need to look pretty. And when I call you to, it moves on from there. It comes from a place of need sometimes. And sometimes it's also a healthy relationship. I know people who've gotten married from a hypogamous relationship, and I can't judge them in any way because in the moment they needed it, this person was supportive, and beyond the sex and provision relationship, they found each other. They found something more. So there's always that part. But there's also the fact that we may sit and look at it and not ask. Parents don't ask. And I'll go back to parentage because I see my child coming home with things I know I can't afford to give them, yet I never ask where they get it from. At the back of my head, I want to say, labda alipata side hustle, but which side hustle will provide all that?
Mtoto wako shule and even, labda hata ya amekuletea kibeti, unajua hata ya 6,000, but you're happy, unamwambia asante sana, kesho bado ataleta. Ama ni aje, si ndo? Ataleta tu tena,
na but mtu anataka kuuliza imetoka wapi. And even when you have an inkling that, hey, my kid may have a financer, I don't want to ask because, again, that will put us to the sex conversation and which parent wants to sit down with their child and actively tell them, okay, I know sex happens. like, I know you're having sex. No parent usually wants to do that in the day and age we're at. I'm old enough, they'll say, ko old enough kujua kitu anafanya. In fact, sometimes they may quote this Bible verse, teach a child the way they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. But in truth, we do depart. In truth, they do depart. And they won't go back. Shida ni hawatarudi. Hakuna kwenye atafika hapo mbele achapwe na reality. Oh, the money is not good. Nani anakuambia pesa si mzuri? Kwanza pesa ya free.
And even growing up also changes you. You keep learning new things, meeting new people, and then you tend to become a different person sometimes. There's good change. You also see like negative change. So, Mary, tutaongea nini? Tutasema nini? Kwa sababu hii conversation, we are not judging anybody. We just want to understand what are our young girls going through out there, and maybe how can we be able even to help them, talk to them, you know, to even secure their future. Because even as much as you're depending on this person, kuna life yako kama Mary, si ndio? As much as anakusupport, you should also build a future of your own. So baby, tunaweza waambia tu nini?
Okay, I think I want to start at some point. There's a point she had said initially about a teenage girl who has sex for the first time and gets pregnant, and she's told, this is not your husband. Looking at it from a different perspective, girls who are having sponsors, not looking at it from an socioeconomic point. I was forced to marry a girl because I impregnated her, not because I loved her. Hence, as a result, I'll just provide what they need, but I will not be present for these kids. What I'm trying to say is, most of these girls grow up without a father figure. As a result, they land into these we've branded them sponsors. they land into a sponsor's hands in the process of, or they land in the hands of an older person than them in the process of looking for a father figure. But this father figure that they have finally found, yeye haoni kukua father figure to this girl's life. He's seeing an opportunity. I'm having a woman who is a wife in my house who I married because I didn't like her because I impregnated her. I was just exploring. We say that boys encourage each other to explore. In the process of him exploring, he impregnated a girl who he married, not because alimpenda, but they have been forced to live together to bring up the children. And here is another girl when me as the man, I'm already old, who I think she's okay. We call them minji. She's still very fresh.
Or fresh sana.
So unapata, these are two people who have met each other with two different needs. The girl is looking for a father figure, but the man is looking for someone he can show love.
Pamper.
Yes, pamper with love, and spoil with love. As a result, allow me to say, most of the time, we end up judging these girls wrongly. But it's something that is actually unconscious to them. They are not consciously looking for the father figure. But again, from interaction with peers, like we are interacting with you, you're always telling me, my dad does. But all I know is a drunkard man for a father. Who akifika kwa geta kikohoa, everyone chini ya kitanda. We are running away because he's a very fierce man. But here is another man who is the age of my dad, but he's very loving, he's providing for me everything, hence it ends up being a hypergamy. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. Shiza, what do you think?
Okay. Personally, I think others are pushed to do that because even of their economic status, because things are hard. Earth is hard right now. Mahali tumefika, yes. Earth is very hard. So you find even, kuna wenye tu anaenda sababu ya pesa because uko shule, maybe your parents are not even able enough to pay your school fee, but yet you want to get an education of your own. You want to be somebody in the future. Unataka kufanya engineering and, you know, unataka kuwa daktari, and it's not cheap, right? So wengine utapata, they see it as an easier way to be able to secure their future. So that is why we are not judging them, because, at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. You know why you're doing that. And you're a grown-up, right? Yeah, so we are not judging. So I think it's because of the economic status too, as much as it might be as a result of your upbringing and whatever is deep-rooted in, your childhood. Kuna wenye wanafanya hivyo also sababu ya pesa. But unfortunately, it's sad when it happens, like the case of Sharon, the way just her life ended, sababu ya maybe walienda wakakosana na whatever happened, na unajua, na mwenye walikuwa na yeye. So we are seeing so many deaths as a result of that, which is something that can be avoided. But just trying to find ways and solutions on how we can be able to address that. I think that is, the most important thing right now. And since we are here today, I think we are the ones who have the platform to be able even just to share our thoughts. What do we think we can be able to do? What are solutions that we can be able to share with the public so that they can be able to know? How can we avoid these things? Because I think it's time that tuache tu kusikia kila siku ukiangalia news, it's about the deaths. Sijui msichana aliuliwa wapi, sijui kulienda aje, mara sijui nude photos za nani zilitumwa. Because I think we have solutions. So what do you think are some of the things that we can do?
First, I think culture has also a huge role to play. We like, in the wake of a problem, we like closing our eyes to what we did to cause it. We are Africans. And that is ingrained in us. Kabisa, kabisa. There's something a lot of us do subconsciously. We don't realize we're doing it. On hypergamy, Kitambo, when they were arranged marriages, who would you rather your daughter be with? The richest man in the village, or just the person she fell in love with who has hajui kwenye anaenda? Na hata huyo richest, hata kama ako na bibi watatu, you don't mind your daughter being the fourth. You get? And then with our parents, it's, I have been told, there's an aunt of mine who once told me, and don't you dare marry a man without money. She said it in Kikuyu, I can't say. And she said, you cannot know a man's character until he has money. Now, you see, this is someone who's older than me, someone I respect. Auntie, I respect you very much. Mm-hmm. I just have to say that. Someone I respect, someone who is there for me, But her thoughts on the whole situation is, you have to go in with your eyes open, and you're not going in. We will not allow you to go to a man who does not have money. Now, you see, if the parents are saying that to the kids, and the kids get sponsors, and then we start saying the kids are wrong, who is wrong?
The parents, I think.
Who is wrong? Because at the end of the day, I will obey. I'm an obedient child. True. And I will go back to my Bible verse, teach a child the way they should go. I have said this. You may not realize it, but kids hear conversations. They listen in on conversations their parents are having. If we are fighting over money all the time in the house, or a lot of the times there are disagreements at home, it's because of money. Why would I end up with someone who does not have money? I'd rather have happiness that does not count that money is a problem. I would rather be with someone I don't love, but kusikwe na argument. We've said kids know. The girls who have sponsors, some of them do that because his father approaches me. Why should I be the one to suffer? You understand? I will always go back to modeling and parentage, because at the end of the day, behavior is learned. At the end of the day, you may think people are making their decisions because they're adults and they know what they're doing, but there's always a child in there screaming to get out, screaming to be healed. Yes, that is my solution.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mary.
I strongly feel that there's a phrase that says, if you want a wound to heal, don't just wash the top of it. Like, chimba yote, osha kabisa, so that it heals. Because if you just clean the top part, what will happen? It will heal hapa juu. But what is it doing inside? It will still, it will rot, and probably you may end up even losing your whole leg, your entire leg. So I feel this conversation we are not just having with these teenagers who are already sexually active. It's not a conversation for only the girls who are having sponsors. It's not a conversation of single parents only, because they are not the problem. Neither are their parents the problem. I think what we need to do is we need to have a conversation with all these people involved, parents and the children as well. Because as we began by saying that problem iliingia kitambo, and it's very unfortunate that we really don't know there is a problem. So we can't say that, I think we need to talk to girls, we need to tell them sponsors are bad. No, we need to sit down with all these people involved and have a discussion, a very open, very sincere, genuine, like from the heart, and get to address the root cause of all this. And I think that way we'll have broken the cycle. Because if we don't do that, the cycle will still move on. The example I gave of, I was told, usicheze na vijana, I'll pass it to my daughter will pass on to her kids, and the cycle continues. So I feel it's about time we have a very, very candid conversation. Yes.
I think from what I'm getting, this goes back to communication. You know, how are we talking to our children? Even as parents, how are we talking to other parents? Even what are we getting, you know? Just for us to be able to share what is of importance. Vitu mbaya tuachane nazo, let us just focus on what is right, and even what we want to see our children emulate from us as their role model. So I think that has been quite informative and a nice conversation. So keep watching us, keep liking, keep sharing. It's not a one-man's conversation. It takes all of us even to have this difference in our even in our societies and even in what we are doing. Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, from us is GVRC. We thank you and keep watching. We have our toll-free number in case you have somebody out there who has gone through GBV of any kind, be it sexual abuse, physical violence. Kindly reach us to us. Our toll-free number is 0800 720 565. Thank you for watching us. See you next time.
Ongea, usinyamaze, ongea.